I might have to scoot down a touch on my mat. So I'm going to do my chin tuck, I'm going to lift my head, and then I'm going to try and lift my arms and hold that position. So that's my next progression. Again, 10-second hold, 10 reps of that. Once they master that, then we can go into the next one. Our next one is doing more of our T with our external rotation. So we're going to be more, I'm a little too close to this wall. We're going to be more out here. We're going to externally rotate. So think thumbs up, tuck the chin, lift the head, and then try and raise the arms this way. Again, I've increased the length of the lever arm by extending my elbows. So it's going to make it more challenging for me to lift and hold that position. The next two for the extensors are actually done in sitting and standing. And so you're going to do diagonals either on a stability ball or in a chair would be kind of the easier way to start them potentially. And so if I'm doing a seated diagonal, I'm going to bring my stability ball in here. So I'll just use my chair. And so I'm going to have them hold that neck position, and then they can work on doing their diagonal motions. Again, we don't want them to just let their head do whatever it wants. It's not about how much they're moving their arms. It's about how well they can hold that neck position, that head position, while they try to move those arms. And so if you're having them do this, get you out of my crotch a little bit. So if I'm having them do this motion, if I start losing my cervical position at here, then don't make them go through the rest of the arc. Have them stop once they lose that position. If we let them just do the exercise without cueing them appropriately, we're just allowing them to ingrain bad habits, and they're not holding this position where we're supposed to, so it pretty much defeats the purpose of what we're after. So maintaining that cervical position is the critical part. And then the next progression would be having them do it in standing. And you can add resistance to it. You could put cuff weights on them. You could have TheraBand that they're having to either pull or push with. And again, just trying to hold that cervical position appropriately while they engage in those motions. So those are kind of the basics of the cervical ones, both for the flexors and the extensors. Again, your book has a nice set of pictures in there, good descriptions. And one thing I didn't mention, there's a bunch of videos too. Your publisher for that Therex book, as well as for your physical rehabilitation book, the big red one, is F.A. Davis. You guys as current students probably already had access to that since we use those textbooks. But during this whole pandemic, F.A. Davis has opened up their whole video library to public use. So if you're bored, trying to gain some extra knowledge, I would encourage you to go look at F.A. Davis's site and feel free to start clicking through a bunch of these different videos for Therex, for neuro. They probably have some for mobiles for a lot of the stuff that we're doing next semester too. So I'm going to stop the tape and then we'll go through lumbar stuff. Abby wanted to say hi. Yes, good girl. Okay, look at the camera. Okay. All right, so when we're talking about lumbar, the flexors, we've got multiple different levels of difficulty, kind of like I just was demonstrating with the cervical stuff. The first one we already covered, that's basically just using the pressure cuff, having them try to flatten out that abdomen by activating TA, pushing that low back down against the cuff, holding that for 10 seconds, and progress up to doing 10 reps of 10 seconds where they're holding that pressure, where baseline pressure should be 40. They're allowed to go up as high as 50, but we shouldn't really be pushing any higher than 50 millimeters on that one. The second level of progression for these hook line ones is what's called the leg fallout. And so the leg fallout, you're going to start in hook lying, and you're letting one leg basically externally rotate at the hip. So your foot stays in contact with the ground. It's kind of like doing a clamshell, except you're just letting gravity pull that leg out to the side instead of trying to lift it up against gravity. And when you let that leg fall out to the side, it's going to make your pelvis want to turn. It's going to make it want to rotate in the transverse plane. And so we're trying to use the foot that still is maintaining the normal hook lying position. That's going to push down on the mat to kind of anchor that side of the pelvis down while the other leg falls out. We don't want to let the whole pelvis turn towards the leg that's rotating out. So we're trying to hold that lumbar position, fight the effect of that extra weight moving to the side that makes it want to twist. We don't want to twist. So we're trying to stabilize and not let that core rotation take place. So those are our first two levels, and I'll demonstrate the leg fallout in a second, but I wanted to show you the other parts on that. So when we get through levels 3 through 6, this is on page 523 in your book. If you look right down there at the bottom, you can see how for levels 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, it's got an A, a B, and a C kind of difficulty. And so when we flip to the next page, it kind of shows you what that looks like. So if we're looking at these pictures here, that's kind of the top one is the level 3 difficulty, the second one down is 4, and then 5, and then 6 all the way down at the bottom. So we're still starting out in hook lying. The easiest position is going to be the one on this side. That's our A. This is our B column right there, and then that's our C column right there. So at each level, if you look horizontally and read them across, you want the patient to be able to accomplish this motion for 10 reps, this one for 10 reps, this one for 10 reps. Once they've mastered this one at 10 reps, then you're going to move to the next level of difficulty. And so you're going to have to do this exercise and try and hold that lumbar position while they're doing it. If they can master that, then they go here. If they master that, then they go here, and so on. And so they just kind of keep working back. Accomplish everything horizontally before you move vertically down to the next level of difficulty. So I would definitely recommend looking through this, working through these. The ones pictured over here are going to be the ones that we're going to do next for the extensor muscles. So let me stop the tape and we'll try those. All right, so our level 2, again, our level 1 is just going to be able to see if they can maintain that, hold that position, activate the TA, and then just holding it for 10 seconds and then relaxing and trying to get up to doing 10 reps of that using that pressure cuff. Our level 2, we're going to be in this same hook lying position, and I'm going to try and let my leg fall out to the side while I keep my pelvis stable. The natural tendency is to let the body rotate. So we want to try and resist that rotation and just try and be able to maintain that lumbar lordosis while we let that leg fall out to the side. And so if they can master that and hold that good posture and good static, stable position of that lumbar spine, then we're ready for level 3. So level 3, we're starting out in hook lying. I'm going to basically just be doing a little march. So I'm just bringing my leg up to about 90 degrees of hip flexion and back down. The tendency is people are going to go into more lumbar flexion. We don't want that. We want them to maintain that gap. We don't want that fat to get flat and push down against the mat. So they're basically just trying to march and come down. March up and come down. So that's the A level. The B level is that same position, but doing a heel slide. So they're just coming up and coming back down. And again, as they come up, the tendency is going to be for them to want to do that. As they come down, the tendency is going to be want to go into even more lordosis. So we don't want them to do either one of those extremes. They want to just maintain and hold that static lumbar position while we extend the leg out and bring it down. And then the C level is basically just doing a straight leg raise. Only up to about 45 degrees of hip flexion, coming up, coming down, and again, maintaining that lumbar lordosis at that proper position, whatever their pelvic neutral position is. So as we move through these next levels, it's those same 3 leg motions, either the march, the heel slide, or the straight leg raise that we're doing. What changes is what this other leg does. So our level 4 progression, we're going to hold this leg up, give it some support with the arms, and then I'm going to try to do my marching position here. I'm going to do my heel slide here while maintaining that lumbar position. And your arms anchoring this leg kind of help hold you in that position, so it's not super tough, but for your patients it might be. And then if they can master that, then they're trying to do this. Our level 5 progression, we take the hands away, we still need to hold this leg at 90 degrees of hip flexion, and then we're trying to march the other leg up. So this gets a lot harder because we don't have our feet to stabilize. So we're really having to work on activating everything in through the core to hold that pelvis where we want it. And so then we try and get into that heel slide position, and then we try and get into that straight leg position. Okay, so that's our level 5. And then our level 6, you are trying to do both legs together. So instead of just holding this other leg static, you're basically trying to pull up both legs and go down, trying to do a heel slide with both legs at the same time, or trying to do a straight leg raise with both legs at the same time. And so that's our final progression on those flexion-based exercises. Okay, let me stop it and we'll go into extension. All right, so for our extensor muscles, again, we're trying to make sure that patient can understand what that neutral position is for their lumbar spine. We don't want them to be sagging way down. We certainly don't want them to be pressing way up like that. So we want them to kind of understand in this quadruped position what's neutral for them. And for me, it's probably about somewhere in there. And they're going to try and hold that position. Now we're going to start moving either one arm or one leg to make it more challenging to hold that position. So your first one is essentially just holding that position and seeing if the patient can lift one arm up. If they can master that, you'd want to make sure that they can do it bilaterally, because they might have more weakness on one side or the other that might cause them to start rotating or twisting a little bit. So that's the easiest one. Knees stay where they are. You're just lifting that leg up, and again, trying not to let them come out of that position. The tendency when they lift that arm up is to do this, and when they drop the arm down is to kind of do that. So you're just trying to hold that position really statically. The next one from there is keeping your foot kind of in contact with the mat. You're kind of doing like a reverse heel slide. So you're basically bringing it in and then sliding it out. Bringing it in and sliding it out. And when you go up into that hip flexion, the tendency is going to be for them to go into more flexion through the lumbar spine. And when they extend that leg back, the tendency is going to be for them to extend that spine more. So we're trying to hold that static position. And again, these aren't big motions. Don't worry about coming all the way up like this. They're just going through a small arc of motion, just like that, and trying to hold that position. If they can master that, then our next level is going to basically be trying to lift the leg and come down, hold that position. And then if they can master that, then we go into kind of our bird dog, where we're going to lift opposite arm and leg. So it's going to be more here and back down, and here and back down. And again, you're trying to hold that lumbar spine right where it is. We don't want to see this kind of stuff. If we do, then we need to correct the patient. Only have them move the limb as far as they can while still holding the lumbar spine where we want it to be. So if they can master all those quadruped positions, then we have them go prone. And when they go prone, then essentially you're just either doing lifting the leg up. Again, it's a little bit harder to have them do this depending on their belly. You know, if they have a bigger abdomen, it's going to be a lot harder to maintain any degree of lumbar lordosis, because that big belly is going to basically push them into more flexion. So this one can be a little bit tougher, where the quadruped, you don't have to worry if somebody's got a bigger belly. It's not going to really affect that one. But with prone, it potentially could. If they can master holding that lumbar spine where we want it and doing single leg lift, then we essentially move into a double leg lift. Again, you can't go very high If you try and go high, you're just going to go into lumbar extension. So you just want to go a short arc, back down, short arc, and back down as they do that. And if they can master that two-legged, then we move into kind of more of like our Superman. At first, you can do it with the elbows kind of bent, like I am kind of here, and just coming up and back down. If they're stronger and doing pretty well, then you can have them extend their arms out, more like your traditional Superman. Again, it's not a matter of how far up they're lifting the limbs. It's just how far they can lift the limbs until they get out of the position that we're after. So those are kind of your basics. There's a ton of other things that you can do for cervical and lumbar stability. The book goes through a lot of them. You might find it helpful sometimes to use a dowel on the person's back when they're in quadruped, and that can help them understand if they're starting to rotate. So when they start trying to lift a limb or lift a leg, they should be able to keep that dowel in the middle of their back. And if they can't, then it means they're probably twisting too much in that transverse plane, and they'll let that roll off. So that can be a helpful trick, and your book does go through all that. So hopefully you've learned something. I think that's it.